In normal chess, you try to checkmate your opponent.
My is throbbing.
You lose the game when, no matter what you do, next turn your king would be captured. I've come up with an interesting new chess variant with all new strategies and tactics where instead of trying to avoid checkmate, it's the only way you can win. Let's play a little example game using pretty standard chess rules to show what I'm talking about. So, as you can see here, I'm trying to lose the chess game as fast as possible. In fact, by playing these moves, I can get checkmated in 2 moves, the fastest chess game possible that ends in checkmate. However, playing this game out requires me trying to lose as fast as possible and my opponent trying to win. That's too boring and easy for me. Instead, let's consider the case where both players are trying to lose. Or rather, both players are trying to checkmate their own king, and that's the only condition under which they win. So later in the video, I'm going to be throwing the chess engines and chess computers at this to try and understand what some of the strategies or and tactics are of this chess variant. But before we jump straight to that, let's just start playing with some stuff on our own to see if we can figure out any strategies or tactics on our own. And in fact, let's start with some relatively simple cases that maybe we're familiar with for regular chess. For instance, a king and rook endgame. In a normal chess match, white, who has the king and the rook, would be beating black because a king and a rook has a checkmating sequence or a strategy or a sequence of moves in almost every starting position that will cause eventually the black king to be checkmated. However, in our inverse chess variant, where we're trying to checkmate our own king, you can see an immediate problem, which is white is under no obligation to try to check or checkmate the black king. So no matter where black moves, trying to get himself mated, white can always just avoid delivering checks or avoid delivering checks in a manner that would ever lead to mate. You can see something similarly applies when even if we have 2 rooks, or probably any other material for that matter. No matter how much white is quote unquote winning by having more pieces, which actually in this variant would mean they're losing, it seems like they are never really obligated to deliver a checkmate to black, to actually give black the win. So this actually raises an interesting question, which is in chess, could you ever possibly be in a position where you're obligated to deliver checkmate? And if you were, what kind of position would that be, or what tools would you use to actually generate such a position? For those of you who are interested, I'll ask you to pause the video if you want to think about the problem for yourself. For those of you who are just along for the ride, I'm going to reveal the answer right now, which is yes, it is possible, but the solution is so convoluted and cockamamie that it would never happen in an actual game of chess. As you can see here, this is one example. This is the simplest example I was able to think of, but I'd be curious in the comments down below if any of you are able to come up with simpler options. In this example, we have 2 knights that are double pinned. We have the black king that is completely surrounded. There's not a single square the black king can move, and literally the only move that black can make is advancing a pawn forward. And when they advance this pawn forward, it delivers checkmate to the enemy king. But as you can see, this kind of position is not realistic. So if we want games of chess where you try to checkmate yourself to be interesting at all, we're going to have to make some adjustments. To make this variant more interesting, and such that somebody could feasibly actually win, I've added 3 rules relating to check. One is that the king may now never capture out of check, meaning that if there's a piece delivering check to the king cannot capture that piece or any other opponent's piece in order to get out of check. 2 is that if there is a check available to deliver to your opponent, you are obligated to deliver a check. If there are multiple possible ways to deliver a check to your opponent, you must pick one of them, but you get to pick. And then finally, if there's a way to deliver checkmate to your opponent, you are obligated to play the move to deliver checkmate. For instance, if we think now about the king-queen endgame, we now see that white, who has the queen and the king, will now actually be forced to checkmate the black king. All the black king needs to do is wander its way towards the edge of the board, and then once it receives a check on the file one away from the edge of the board, it moves to the edge of the board, and the queen is obligated to come up face to face with the king. And because the king cannot capture its way out of check, this is checkmate. This is actually forced. White is obligated to deliver a check every turn there is a check available. And in this endgame, where there's only both kings and a queen on the board, there will always be a check that the white queen is able to give to the black king. And all the black king needs to do is wander away to a row or column on the board that's one away from the edge. And the white queen cannot defend every edge of the board simultaneously. And as soon as the checkmating opportunity becomes available, white is obligated to play it. So this really is a forced mate. And what we're learning as a generally true strategy for this variant of chess is that having more material is bad. Similarly, for a two rooks endgame, all that you need to do is wander your king into the corner, and then no matter what, the opponent will be forced to deliver a checkmate, even if the rook delivering the mate is right next to the king. Remember that you cannot capture out of mate in this variant, so it doesn't matter. Let's take a look at some early game strategies with the engine. This is going to be the sacrifice the queen strategy. So as white, we're going to pull out our queen with the effort to try and force black to take it. So as black here, you might want to defend with your own queen or with your knight to force white to take it as they're forced to deliver a check. But in this case, black blocks with the bishop, and we are forced to take it to deliver a check to the king. And because there's no way out of mate except taking back, black is forced to take our queen. So now, because black is up a queen, they're actually losing, as you can see by the engine which I've turned on, which isn't fully perfect yet. But black is forced to deliver a check to our king, and then is forced to come deliver this checkmate. So if you somehow manage to sacrifice a queen in the early game, for instance, if your opponent blunders and allows you to sacrifice their queen, then you're actually up, and there's potentially strategies you could have to force your opponent to deliver checkmate. Now we're going to look at another opening strategy, something like sacrifice the king. So as white, we're going to try and almost play the bomb cloud, or get our king out in the open as quick as possible. So here we move out our king, and we force black to deliver a check to us. After we get the check delivered to us, we actually continue advancing out to keep exposing our king. So we're going to keep advancing here, and black is forced to deliver checks to us. And then in this case, we're actually lining up to force a really cool mate, where black plays this move, which checks us through the discovered check with the bishop, while simultaneously taking away all of our squares, including a square with the pawn that was moved itself. This is all just a taste of the different tactics and cool things to find in this variant of chess where you try to checkmate yourself. Before I wrap up, I'm going to leave you with this. In the background, I'm going to show a game of chess between my losing chess engine with the white pieces and with negative 200 elo versus Stockfish with the black pieces and with the blue arrows and with over 3,000 chess elo. This losing chess variant actually opens some interesting philosophical questions about what chess elo means and what it means to be bad at chess. As you can guess, my losing chess engine is obviously going to lose against Stockfish. In fact, it's trying to lose. The interesting thing is that my chess engine expects that its opponent is also trying to lose. So in some ways, my losing chess engine does not play optimally to lose as fast as possible. For instance, my chess engine could have just easily played in to the two-move chess game where white gets checkmated as soon as possible if it knew that black was trying to win. But because it's expecting black to also try to lose, my chess engine plays weird moves and it prolongs the game. It doesn't actually play as bad as possible in some ways, or at least it doesn't try to end the game as fast as possible. Yet I would still argue that my chess engine is worse. If you tried to score my chess engine against an engine that was also trying to lose but expecting the opponent to play good moves, my chess engine would lose more consistently. It is literally the best at losing. And yes, it prolongs the game with Stockfish because Stockfish doesn't play the way it's expecting a player trying to lose would play because Stockfish is trying to win. But if we were to spend more time trying to actually compute the elo of chess into the negatives and get a specific actual number by pitting different engines with different goals against each other, theoretically, the engine that I've created would actually be at the bottom. It would have the greatest negative number elo. I think this is an interesting topic of what it means to really be bad at chess and how, in order to be bad, you have to be really, really bad. And you need to also anticipate your opponent being bad, such that you could be even worse than them. I think this is a super interesting topic, and that's what I'd like to explore in a future video.